Hi everyone, we will continue our search for truth lesson with lesson 12, chart 4, right? And as we come to the last couple of lessons for this series of Bible studies, right? So prior to this particular chart, we read of the final rebellion, right, by Satan as well as mankind, right? And then we also talked about the great white throne judgment, right? So after all the judgment of sin, judgment of all that is being done, the Bible describes, right, or rather, John saw, right, in a vision, right, a new heaven, right, a new heaven and earth, right, appearing before him. So this is what we'll be covering in this particular chart. Right, so let's look at what John saw according to what he's put down in the Bible. He says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the old heaven and the old earth had disappeared, and the sea was also gone. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, like a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. I heard a loud shout from the throne saying, 'Look, God's home is now among his people. He will live with them and they will be his people. God himself will be with them.'" So as we reach the last uh, few parts of the Bible, the last couple of chapters of the Bible, whereby basically or the end is coming, right? Or rather the end of everything, right? We read about how God has described new beginnings, right? In this case, a new heaven and a new earth. And I thought it is significant that the new heaven and earth is described, right, as if a bride being prepared for a husband. Again, it really talks about the kind of relationship that God intends to have with mankind. So the faith, the Christian faith, is not just about a religion, but really a relationship. And as John goes on to describe what this new heaven and earth will be like and this new Jerusalem, right, let's read these particular verses. "Then the angel showed me a river with the water of life, clear as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. It flowed down the center of the main street. On each side of the river grew a tree of life, bearing 12 crops of fruit, with a fresh crop each month. The leaves were used for medicine to heal the nations." So as God introduces the new heaven and new earth, where he will be among his people, the Bible talks about how he provides healing, he provides life, he provides nourishment. So really the end that God is promising us, right, when we are with him forever, is a promise of abundance, a promise of healing, a promise of refreshing, a promise of renewed, strengthened relationships. Now, in the Christian faith, a lot is being talked about heaven, a lot is being talked about in terms of the afterlife or the eternal life. And throughout different passages in the Bible, we hear heaven being described as a life of joy and happiness, continual fellowship where people have relationship with one another, a place of peace, a place where people experience God's purity, God's holiness, his abundance, a place where there's always worship before God, right? So let's look at a few verses that kind of like gives us more insight to this. Jesus promised this himself, say, "When everything is ready, I will come and get you so that you will always be with me where I am." Right? And in Revelation, Jesus, when he came back, but when he comes back again, he says, "It is finished. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To all who are thirsty, I will give freely from the spring of the water of life. All who are victorious will inherit these blessings, and I will be their God, and they will be my children." Right? In the same chapter, it says, "He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or sorrow or crying or pain. All these things are gone forever." So the Bible describes heaven as a place not just of rest, but a place of refreshing, a place whereby people get to be with God, to experience the intimacy or relationship he has always intended to be. Now, many people have different ideas of what the afterlife is. Some people talk about the afterlife in terms of rebirths, right? Some people talk about the afterlife as something that would be a place of nothingness, right? According to the Christian faith, this is the afterlife that believers can look forward to, a place of rest, a place of relationship with God Himself, right? And let's look at some key takeaways as we end this particular chart, right? What we can see as the Bible comes to a close is this, that God is a promise-keeping God. These are things that He's been promising throughout the Bible, and in the book of Revelation, we see that He will bring these things to pass, right? And God is a good God, right? And God is one who desires relationship with His people. But the way He describes the kind of blessings people will have in eternity, right, really is a relationship with His people, right? And as we go through some of these lessons, right, and this particular one, really, it gives us an assurance of how things end, right, to give His believers hope, to motivate His believers to stay faithful. So those who are believers will say, what do I have to look forward to in living a life for God? And through passages like this, God is promising that the end will be a good outcome, the end will be a great outcome, right? So that's all we have for us in this chart. Thank you.